You called yourself my friend but took my man from behind?
Your man? You must be silly, Amanda.
You are even bold about your actions to my face, Chizzy?
Why won't I be?
And that's how Amanda's confrontation to Chizzy turned sour. The relationship she was trying to save slipped so fast from her hand. Sit back and watch as the story unfolds.
Amanda had always believed in investing in people she loved. She first met Ike at what seemed like the lowest point in his life, a rainy evening on campus when he had just lost a small scholarship that paid parts of his fees. He was sitting alone under a tree near the library, shoulders slumped, his bag soaked, and his eyes filled with quiet frustration. Something about his sincerity and humility drew her in. He spoke openly about his struggles, never trying to impress or pretend, and his gentle humor made even his worries sound lighter. Over time, Amanda began to admire not just his intelligence, but also the warmth of his heart. Their conversations stretched late into the night, and soon their friendship blossomed into a relationship. Amanda supported Ike not only with her time and affection, but also financially and emotionally. She often stayed up at night helping him revise for exams, edited his assignments, and even connected him with one of her relatives who offered him a small internship during the holidays. When his rent was overdue, she quietly paid part of it without making him feel embarrassed. She encouraged him to join professional groups and even paid for some of the membership fees to boost his chances after graduation. On the day he defended his final project, she surprised him with a brand new suit and polished shoes so he could look his best. A gesture Ike would later tell friends gave him confidence to stand tall. For years, their bond seemed unshakable. After they both graduated, they were posted to different states for their national youth service. Amanda, who had been posted closer to Ike's location, often traveled to visit him on weekends, sometimes trekking long distances from her lodge to his place, just to keep him company and make sure he was settling in well. When he needed to go back with her to her own base for a few days, she gladly did the same, showing him her new environment and introducing him to supportive friends. Throughout the service year, she constantly checked on him, sent him small stipends from her own allowance when he's run out, and motivated him not to give up. After their service ended, Amanda even used her own contacts to help Ike secure his first job, convinced that his brilliance deserved an opportunity. Her belief in him only grew stronger with every small success he achieved. After Amanda helped Ike secure a job, the first 3 months felt like a dream. Their love blossomed beautifully and their friendship grew even stronger. They laughed at the smallest jokes, shared meals like newlyweds, and celebrated even the tiniest wins together. Everywhere they went, their bond spoke volumes, so much so that people who knew them often pointed to their relationship as an example of what true love and loyalty should look like. For Amanda, it felt like every sacrifice she had made was finally paying off, and for a while she believed nothing could ever come between them. But as Ike's fortunes began to improve, cracks started to appear. He no longer called Amanda the way he used to. Days would pass without a message, and when she called, he often let the phone ring out or sent a hurried text with an excuse about being busy. This This was completely unlike the Ike she'd known, the one who once couldn't go a single evening without hearing her voice. When Amanda gently confronted him about the distance, instead of listening, Ike accused her of being too demanding, even calling her a narcissist, a word she had never heard from his lips before. The easy laughter and shared plans that had bound them together were replaced by awkward silences and defensive arguments, and Amanda began to feel like an outsider in the life she had helped him build. Amanda couldn't understand why Ike had changed so drastically. Nothing had shifted on her own side. She was still supportive, still calling, still encouraging. Yet the man she had poured herself into was slipping away. Confused and hurt, she decided to become her own Sherlock Holmes. Quietly, she started making little investigations, asking careful questions, checking social media posts, and observing things she had once ignored. Shockingly, she discovered the truth. The person she had been trying to save her relationship from was no stranger at all, but her longtime friend, Chizzy. It was Amanda herself who had introduced Chizzy to Ike months earlier, believing her wealthy, well-connected friend could help him grow his network. She never imagined that behind her back, Ike had been nursing an interest in Chizzy and had finally acted on it. The realization hit Amanda like a cold wave. The man she had sacrificed so much for had chosen someone from her own circle, someone she had trusted. She felt dizzy, betrayed, and humiliated all at once. The moment she realized the truth, the warmth that had defined her friendship with Chizzy turned icy. Calls between the two became clipped, smiles at gatherings became strained, and the easy laughter they once shared evaporated. Amanda kept replaying everything in her head: how she had introduced them, how she had boasted about Ike to her friend, and each memory stung like salt on an open wound. Still, Amanda refused to stay down. Convinced she could salvage what they once had, she did everything possible to win her man back. She confronted Chizzy several times, only to be met with indifference. Chizzy would shrug and tell her to go and hold your man instead, as if nothing inappropriate was happening. Ike, when confronted, denied any wrongdoing, insisting he and Chizzy were merely doing business together. "What else will I be doing with your friend?" he would scream out loud. But Amanda kept seeing things that didn't fit that story. Photos of them at restaurants, catching them shopping together, overhearing playful jokes. Her heart said one thing, while Ike's words said another. Desperate and hurt, she reached a breaking point. One afternoon at a shopping mall, she ran into Chizzy again, overwhelmed by anger, publicly and rudely confronted her. The quarrel escalated into a scuffle that drew a small crowd. Instead of bringing Ike back to her side, the incident only pushed him further away. He became even more distant and cold, and Amanda realized that her fight might have cost her more than she expected. When Amanda realized that nothing she had done or would ever do could bring Ike back, that he had already made up his mind to be with her friend, she knew she had to choose herself. She did one thing she had never thought of at first. She poured her heart and pain into her work, took on new projects, and slowly built herself up stronger than before. Her dignity became her shield, and little by little she reclaimed her peace. Months later, as life steadied, Amanda began to see clearly just how much she had poured into Ike over the years. Without the constant drain of supporting him, she was able to save more than she ever had before, and channel part of that money into a dream she had long delayed: starting her own company. Slowly, she built it from the ground up, each milestone a reminder that she could stand on her own. It was at the height of this new beginning, almost 3 years after their dramatic breakup, that Ike called her the first time. His voice was hesitant, full of nostalgia and regret, as he tried to open the door for reconciliation. But Amanda, now stronger and wiser, gently refused. She had moved on, and she no longer wanted to return to a life that had cost her so much. She was already deep into building her own company, and she has to keep her focus no matter what. Months later, when the company finally stabilized, she resigned from her old job and officially became the CEO of the enterprise she had created from scratch. After Amanda had fully established her company, its success exceeded even her own expectations. What had started as a small, uncertain venture blossomed into a thriving enterprise that attracted attention far and wide. The company expanded rapidly, growing into several new departments, each managed by capable hands who shared Amanda's vision and drive. Business was booming, and plans were already underway to open new branches in other cities. It was clear that Amanda's dedication, resilience, and hard work had transformed her once fragile dream into a lasting legacy. Then came an unexpected twist. On a routine visit to one of the new departments, as Amanda opened the door, she froze. Amanda met Ike. He was the last person on her mind, and now here he was. She was surprised to find Ike among the staff. He had been hired as a junior project supervisor without knowing that the business belonged to her, and she had never been told he was part of the new intake. Well, what did they know? And how would she even know? She has an HR that handles recruitment, and she doesn't interfere with his job. The shock was mutual. He had not expected to see her as his boss. Ike had no idea he was now working for the woman he had once abandoned. For days, there was a faint drama in the office. Ike tried to strike up small conversations to apologize and hint at rekindling what they had lost, but Amanda drew a firm line. She signed his papers, gave him his assignments, and kept meetings brief. She warned him clearly that in her company, they were to deal only on business, and that any personal misconduct would cost him his position. Her calm firmness left him unsettled. Yet, despite her outward composure, Amanda grew curious again. Quietly, she began to dig into what really happened between Ike and Chizzy during the time she had been absent. Through discreet inquiries, she uncovered something that shocked her, a side of their relationship she had never suspected before. When she left the picture, Ike and Chizzy had thrown themselves into a flashy life together, walking side by side, attending parties, moving from one event to another. But without Amanda quietly fueling his dreams, Ike had become dependent on Chizzy. And Chizzy, despite her wealth, rarely gave him any real financial support. Whenever he asked to launch his own projects, she brushed him off, whispering to friends that Ike was starting to look like a gold digger. What neither of them realized was that Chizzy was secretly married to a man who lived mostly abroad. The businesses everyone thought were hers actually belonged to her husband. She only managed them in his absence. When the husband began receiving evidence of their closeness with Ike, he returned Nigeria furious. To keep the scandal from exploding, Chizzy abruptly cut ties with Ike. Her husband, seeking retaliation, quietly used his influence to make sure Ike's opportunities dried up, forcing him to start from the bottom. A wave of mixed emotions washed over her. She felt deeply hurt and betrayed, not just by Ike, but even more by Chizzy. She couldn't understand why her own friend would knowingly take her man away, especially when she must have known that she had no real intention of keeping him for long. The thought stung. The betrayal ran deep. But after the long nights of reflection, Amanda began to see things differently. Maybe it was fate's way of redirecting her path, of freeing her from a bond that would have only held her back. Slowly, she began to accept that perhaps everything had happened so she could finally focus on herself, her dreams, and the life she was destined to build. As a human,
There were moments of sadness for the years she had poured into Ike, but is now a quiet sense of relief and even satisfaction. Seeing how everything had unfolded between him and Chizzy felt like good riddance to bad rubbish. For the first time in a long while, she stopped blaming herself and truly felt free of the weight of their past. All through those years, Amanda learnt a powerful lesson. Loyalty and sacrifice should never be taken for granted, and not everyone you help will remain by your side. Even though part of her felt vindicated by the reversal of roles, Amanda held on to the lesson she had learned. She forgave him in her heart, but she never went back. She chose herself and her future instead, walking away from the pain with her head held high, her company thriving, and her spirit free.